Morning. We're now joined by Fox Sports NFL analyst Michael Vick. Mike, good to see you. I'm going to start with you here. Would Jalen Hurts give Philly a better chance to win than Carson Wentz?
Yeah, I think so. As of right now, I think Jalen is the spot. I mean, when you look at what he did yesterday in a short period of time, you know, he did it under difficult circumstances. Coming off the bench, it was cold. They were behind. And, you know, he did provide a spot. But imagine Jalen Hurts with a full week of practice, reps with the number one offense. I think he'll be a lot better, and I think he can provide a spark. And what Doug Peters can do is take a page out of the Sean Payton playbook with Taysom Hill and what they've been able to do with him. I think Jalen Hurts is built, you know, to run the football, to throw past the football, and I think he can be a dual threat. You know, in regards to, you know, the offense and what Doug Peterson likes to do. But for this team right now, they need a spark. They need something to happen. They need something to look forward to for the future. And I know the Philadelphia Eagle fan base has been waiting for this for a long time, and they got a chance to see what Jalen Hurts could do. What I was interested to see was how he handled the offense. You know, even in a short period of time, you know, how did he make decisions? Did he have an understanding of the offense, pocket presence, instincts? And everything showed up, even, you know, in a difficult situation. And, you know, I got to take that with a grain of salt. I thought, you know, he performed to the best of his ability at the time with what he was working with. And I could see Jalen Hurts being the quarterback of the future for the Philadelphia Eagles if he gets the right maintenance, if he has the right coaching, if it's some time that's put into his game. You know, I can see him flourishing. But, you know, throughout the remainder of the season, this is the time to look at a guy like Jalen and see what you have. He's a second-round pick, so you got to get some film on him, and you got to be able to evaluate your quarterback situation moving forward. Even though Carson Wentz has to be the guy moving forward contractually, you got to stick with him. But it's good to know that if things aren't going well with Carson, that you can put Jalen Hurts in the game.
You said, imagine Jalen Hurts getting a week to prepare, getting a week to go with the number one starters. Can you imagine if the defense get a week to prepare for Jalen Hurts? Mike, I don't know if you noticed this, but the Eagles had 27 pass attempts. They got sacked 7 times. Let that sink in for just a second, Mike. 27 pass attempts, and you got sacked 7 times. Now, you do know next week they're on the road in New Orleans. So you said, well, maybe he can be like a Taysom Hill. So I want you to tell me in this Eagles lineup, who's Alvin Kamara in the Eagles lineup? I want to know who Mike Thomas is, who Emmanuel Sanders is, and who that offensive line, because they got 3 Pro Bowlers on the offensive line for New Orleans. So I want you to tell me of the Eagles, the offensive line and skill position, tell me who are the equivalent in Philadelphia.
First of all, let's back up for a second. Now, how many sacks did the Philadelphia Eagles have yesterday? You said 7?
They allowed 7 sacks on 27 pass attempts. 4 on Carson Wentz, 4 on Carson Wentz on 15, and 3 on Jalen Hurts on 12.
Okay, all right. So back to what I was saying. To come into a game, in the middle of the game, or towards the end of the game when you're down by a certain amount of points, and it's cold. I've been in that situation before. It's difficult. So let me back up and just say that's not the easiest thing to do. So I'm not going to judge Jalen Hurts on that alone.
But you said hold on, but you did.
It's going to be a totally different offensive scheme. So I can't answer your question in terms of what's going to happen next week. I'm only answering the question based on what I seen yesterday, Shannon.
But here's the thing, though, Mike.
That.
You know it's easier to come.
Came in and did yesterday. I appreciate the fact that they gave him a shot. He looked good doing it, and he looked like he can be a spark for next week. But
now, you say you want. But hold on. But you just told me you weren't going to judge him on that. But you say he provided a spark.
He did. He gave him a glimpse of hope. For a minute, we thought they was coming back. Listen, you know, it takes a total team effort to win a football game. Jalen Hurts is not going to go out there and win a game all by himself.
That's what they expect Carson Wentz to do.
He's still a rookie.
That's what they expect Carson.
I don't care what the offensive line looks like. I don't care what the offensive line is doing. A week to prepare can work wonders. You know, the protections can be different. The scheme is going to be different. The play calls is going to be different. Get a man a fair shot. Okay. I'm not going to judge him before he don't have a fair shot.
Okay. I can't wait to see this behind that offensive line. Woo.
I can't wait to see it either. But I think he can maneuver that if it's one thing he can do better than Carson, it's that.
So allow me to say that I appreciate that Michael Vick just publicly blessed Jalen Hurts as possibly the future if he continues to dedicate himself and continues to progress off the spark that we obviously all, except Shannon, saw yesterday. The point is, I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. I said the Monday after the draft that Jalen Hurts ultimately will be better than Carson Wentz because Jalen Hurts, number one, and most important, is a natural-born leader of men, young men, pro football players. He will take over that team, locker room, huddle. They will play for him because he is a playmaker. He does not have Michael Vick's arm. He does not have Michael's quickness or speed, but he has a good enough arm, an accurate enough arm. And remember, he's a coach's son. His son was his high school coach in the Houston area.
His dad was.
Yeah, his dad was. And the point is that he has a great feel for how to move in the offense, when to go, when to stop, when to throw it, when to take off. And he's a very clever, crafty runner who's quicker and faster than you think because he's big. He's 225-ish. And he is always pound for pound the strongest man in any team's weight room because he is just a flat-out beast in the weight room. And the Taysom Hill comparison is valid because he may not have, he doesn't have Taysom Hill's flat-out, because Taysom Hill runs 4.4.
Yeah.
I mean, he can fly.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have that. But Jalen timed 4.5 at the combine, and it's an effortless 4.5.
Yeah, he's pretty fast enough.
Okay. So given all that, given all the intangibles that I believe he has that Carson Wentz does not demonstrate to me, hasn't demonstrated, he has a much better chance of taking over this team and making it more competitive starting next year than Carson Wentz. So I don't, against New Orleans, sure, it's the best, you can argue it's the best defense right now in pro football. It might be the best pass rush in pro football. That they play so sound and they come after you. So this, you can't ask in a first start, your first ever NFL start, to have a higher degree of difficulty than this. I'm just saying they'd have a better chance with Jalen starting than Carson starting.
But Mike, you will have to concede this. You look at that offensive line and you look at his skill position players. It's hard for me. If you look at Tom Brady, when Tom has struggled this year, it was because of pressure. You look at Aaron Rodgers, in the game that he struggled, it was because of pressure. The one game that Patrick Mahomes lost, the Raiders were able to get pressure on him. And now you're talking about getting pressure on guys with outstanding weapons. You look at what they have in Tampa. You look at Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay with Devontae and Tanya and Lazard and Aaron Jones. You look at what Mahomes have. He has weapons, and when you pressured him, he struggled. What the hell do you expect Jalen Hurts to do with no offensive line and no weapons, and you expect him to be better than Carson? How?
For the simple fact that he's a dual threat. And Carson Wentz, he can pull it down and run it, but he's not committed to that. So Jalen Hurts is going to come into a game and present a totally different set of problems for a defense. First of all, they got to prepare for him in the run game. And like Skip said, he's stocky, weighs about 225. He's young. He's not beat up. He's going to be able to take that pounding. He's going to be able to give it to you for 4 quarters, throughout the entirety of a football game. And that's not going to change. Mix in a little bit of passing game. And they drafted this guy in the second round for a reason. So Doug Peterson has evaluated this kid, and they understand what they can get away with in the short term. In the long term, you build an offensive line around him. You give him some weapons, and then you see the Jalen Hurts that you've seen at Alabama or Oklahoma, potentially.
What I'm saying is that I just don't.
No, I understand your point. I totally understand.
That offensive line, you see that offensive line. You see that.
It's horrible. And that's not his fault. It's not Carson's fault. We could be having the same conversation or a different conversation about Carson if the offensive line was healthy, if Deshaun was out there, if Alshon Jeffries was at his best. We could be having the same conversation. So I just don't want to take anything away from Jalen Hurts before we give him a fair shot at going out there and showing that he can be the franchise quarterback moving forward down the road. I'm not saying in the next year or the year after, because we know Carson Wentz is locked up contractually with this team. But it's a building block. It's something that Doug Peterson can hang his hat on.
So, Michael, obviously you started in Atlanta, so you bleed some red, but you also bleed a little green because you had a great long stint in Philly also. Gut feeling, what's your heart tell you that this franchise should do going forward? Is it time to change coaches? Is it time to change management? What's your gut feeling?
No, my gut, I don't think it's time to change coaches. I don't necessarily believe that is the right thing to do all the time. You know, it's easy to say that, and it's easy to just go in a different direction. But when you do that, you kind of mix up and shake up the whole franchise. What I think is most important and what can be evaluated in the short term is the type of talent that you bring in. Like, I want to see, explosive 4-4 receivers, and, they got the run game, and the offensive line they're getting a little old.